What is going on? Back with the Vigor Life podcast and special guest, somebody that I have known for a long time and has definitely you could call it blown up, definitely blown up online in industry, doing amazing things, which we'll kind of touch on. My friend Dan Go, it's phenomenal to have you on the show. How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. It's probably been about 15 years since we met each other. And it was actually in the conference. And then now you're running conferences. So you're kind of making those connections now. So it's coming full circle. And it's been incredible to see the both of us grow in this industry and do things the right way, I would say. So yeah,
Yeah,
really,
that's
really
that's
stoked to be here.
the right way is definitely the word. And it's been cool. Like for anybody that doesn't, I mean, if you don't follow Dan, you definitely need to follow Dan, period. Um,
Thanks.
but we met because we are both gym owners a long time ago. And you just reminded me that 2018, you sold the gym and
Mm,
full blown online. And if you haven't seen me online, you probably are not online because it's definitely a lot of great information that's out there that you share. And I kind of want to dive into that today. Like two separate kind of conversations is going to go where it's going to go. But now it's like you basically coach high level executives, but busy people that want to transform their health, their life. And
yeah.
you have a big pool of, I would say, not only results, but examples. And that's why I kind of wanted to touch on the side of what are the big rocks that you see from your world of stuff that actually works,
Mm,
that helps them get leaner, drop body fat, get healthier, just get more energy to do the stuff that they want to in life. Because I think it really matters to get the information and insights from people that are actually coaching and
yeah.
not the
Yeah.
theoretical stuff that goes around. There's a lot of things that go viral now. And I know
Mm.
both me and you look at it and go like, man, nobody's doing that shit. It looks maybe cool for social, but nobody's really doing that stuff. So I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of dive into that. And honestly, from the training to the nutrition to the lifestyle habits,
Yeah.
the things that you think are the big rocks that help those folks.
For sure. So the people I help are the entrepreneurs, the New York Times bestsellers, some of the highest performing individuals. I call them the mental athletes of our generation. So we have our physical athletes, which are like the Usain Bolts and the people that you work with, the Seahawks and all those guys. And I work with the highest level mental athletes, people who use their brains and who rely on their thinking and their decision making to create amazing things in the world. So when it comes to big rocks, funny enough, a lot of people think that we do all these like convoluted things with all of these high level people, but the reality is that we actually have to simplify everything. And we have to really hone it in on the big pillars and the big rocks. And aside from, say, workouts, nutrition, sleep, things of that nature, one of the things that we focus on is data. It's actually getting the right data, using that data to inform the decisions that we're making in terms of like our workouts, our nutrition, our movement. And a lot of times, like when I have conversations with high-level entrepreneurs, especially people who have problems releasing a lot of the body weight, the very first thing that I see that they're missing is data tracking. So I'll use an example from one of our own clients where when we first met him, I was asking him, okay, cool. He's obviously doing very well for himself. And I asked him, okay, how often do you track your sales? And he was like, every single day, every single hour, And I was just like, all right, cool. When's the last time you stepped on the scale? And he gave me a complete blank. And it was like maybe like a month ago, maybe like 6 weeks ago. And it's so funny how we can be like, especially as entrepreneurs, we can be so objective about our businesses, but for a lot of people, they get really emotional about their bodies. And they want to actually avoid the data that matters because they don't want to get scared. They don't want to see how bad it's gone. When the reality is that they actually need to see that data. So on the surface level, we track things like weight, obviously, inches, pictures. We call this kind of like the results trifecta, which is like you can't just inform yourself with weight, you can't just inform yourself with inches, you can't just inform yourself with pictures. You need a holistic picture of how everything is going from the surface. On the deeper end of things, we do things like DEXA scans to make sure that we know exactly how much lean mass they have, how much body fat they have, how much visceral fat that they have, and also where they carry that body fat. Things like android to gynoid ratios, things like even bone density to a certain extent. And then when it comes to the blood work, we're just looking for the basic things like HbA1c, their inflammation markers, their testosterone levels. And we don't do it all at once. We do it over the course of, say, like 90 days. And the thing I like to say about the data is that we want to go a little bit deeper, the deeper that we go. So first, just get the basics down, and then afterwards, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's get the DEXA. Let's go a little bit deeper than that because you can be like, you can look like you're healthy, but if your blood is saying something completely different, then you're probably not, you're going to look good, but you're not necessarily going to be feeling good inside. And then we just make sure that we have the right data to inform the decisions that we're making, especially when it comes to like nutrient supplementation, things of that nature. And then we have our workouts. For a lot of the people that we work with, primarily they want to get lean, they want to lose weight. So we place a massive emphasis on weight training exercises, but also with the weight training exercises, especially because we're dealing with very busy people, we have to make sure that we align the amount of time that they can spend in the gym to the actual time that they have allotted for themselves. So one of the things that we found with a lot of our high level clients is that they don't really have that much time to spend in the gym. Some of them have workouts already like as part of their lifestyle. A lot of them don't. So we actually consolidated down and we can get a great workout down to about 30 minutes using supersets. I mean, like I think they just did a Brad Schoenfeld uh, just did a study about it and that you can actually reduce the length of your workout by 33% while still getting the same gains. We've actually found that we can actually reduce a workout by like 50% and still get the same gains and also get that slight cardiovascular benefit if they're not like doing cardio or anything like that. From the diet perspective, we're looking at obviously like quality of foods and quantity of food. So like the quantity is always going to be the calories. And the thing is, with a lot of people, they're like, is it hormones? Is it calories? And we're here to say it's actually both. It's the quality of your food, it's the quantity of your food, how much you're putting in. And it's so easy. And what people don't realize is that it's like, it's really easy to have almost like the same food that looks completely the same as you or completely the same when you put it plate by plate, but you can have this variance of about 200 to like 300 calories between both plates. So we put a big emphasis on tracking, especially when it comes to their diet. And if they don't want to track, if they feel like that's too kind of like too much for their lives, we use the simplified way of just using their fist, their palm, and also their hands to kind of like measure out their protein. Another thing that we do with their nutrition as well is just like make sure that we're getting the timing right. I know that timing doesn't have a lot to do with whether or not someone burns fat faster or slower or whatever, but something that we found with timing is it really works well in terms of their hunger profile and their appetite profile. So we want to make sure that we almost like train their hunger like a dog. So the way in which we do that is we align their meal schedules with kind of like the way that they sleep and they wake. We call it kind of like aligning it with their circadian rhythms, but it's essentially saying, hey, we're going to have a hard boundary of about 3 to 5 hours before we go to sleep, where we're going to not be eating whatsoever. That's going to have a downstream effect on your sleep. It's going to make it a lot better. And also you're giving yourself a boundary for when you're going to stop. And a lot of people actually have problems with binge eating at night. The other thing that we do before that is like next meal is going to be 3 to 5 hours before that. Then your first meal is going to be 3 to 5 hours before that. The more that we kind of like lock in this meal timing or this kind of like schedule, it almost like dictates when they are about to be hungry or at what time they're going to be hungry. Then we have sleep protocols. That's obviously something that we work on, but something that I realize is that we have to get the exercise down and the nutrition down before we actually work on the sleep, which is so funny because a lot of times people find it harder to fix the sleep portion than they do with the exercise and the nutrition portion. And once we get those two things down, then we go on to the sleep. And then the final protocol that we use is actually this thing that's called the law of constraints or the theory of constraints. So we know this in business, which is like if we have a business and we see the business is not performing in one pillar area, then we will do this thing called the theory of constraints, which is like subordinate everything so we can fix that obstacle and we can remove it so our business can run a lot faster and we can have a lot more success. Well, the thing is that the same principle applies to the body. So let's just say that we had a client who had a problem with binge eating at night, right? So that's the constraint. That's actually the symptom of something that's deeper that's going on. So if we eliminate this constraint, it will almost make weight loss irrelevant because during the day he had no problems like controlling like his food intake. It was only at night where he kind of was fucking it up, so to speak. So if we eliminate this, then it almost makes like weight loss automatic. And also it makes the rest of his life a lot easier as a result of removing this constraint. So we have this protocol where it's like, okay, so target the constraint, identify it. What is the constraint? Binge eating. Okay, so find the root cause of that constraint, which is like for him, it was like the symptom was stress, but going deeper into the psychological side of things, he ended up he was binge eating at night as a kid to get away from the stress of being in a very toxic household, so to speak. So that was like the other thing. And then afterwards, what we did was we said, well, forget everything. We're just going to focus in on making this a habit. So we tracked the habit. We made sure that we did things to fix the physical side of things and also the psychological side of things. And we wanted to make sure that we did this for about 21 days to give it a good start. And and then after that, after you fix this constraint, then we just move on to the next one. And then we want to like remove these, like a lot of people think like fat loss and like getting lean and like changing the body is a lot about like doing a bunch of shit. But the reality is actually about removing the obstacles that are in your path in order to attain it in the first place. So one thing that we do really well is like this law of constraints, and I think it's like a pillar part to like everything that we do.
No, so there's a bunch of things I wanted to kind of dive into and unpack. Number one is like every person, when somebody's very, very busy, right? When you go over all these, how fast, and I know that there's no direct answer to this, but are there the same challenges of like, okay, look, we're gonna train. Now there's the nutrition aspect, now there's the sleep aspect. Do you see the same kind of obstacles of too much too fast? If you add too many things to the equation, you know, it doesn't get done. So you have to kind of maneuver how many things you're able to insert to where a person feels successful doing it. Because right, if it's like, hey, you're going to do these four things, and it's like, whoa, 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 like I'm feeling unsuccessful because I can't make these changes.
Hmm.
That be a reality, or is more like sometimes do you see that for A type personalities or people that like want to get the the job done per se, that it actually works better having a mapped out plan, do this thing then,
Yeah.
um, and you see that actually working better in that sense.
The honest answer with everything is like it all depends on the person, right? So it's like that's always going to be like the bare minimum answer. But at the same time, something that I realized with coaching is that it is actually best to overhaul and go to your extremes in the fucking beginning. I really believe that. It's best to go to your extremes in the beginning and then you can find your balance. What this means is a lot of people are talking about this saying, let's just call it like flexible dieting. Should someone's diet be flexible right off the bat of actually starting something where they're trying to lose weight? I say probably 80% no, it should not. And the reason I say that is because there are so many things downstream of having a flexible diet that include trigger foods, food noise, things that we don't really think about. And we have to actually reacclimate ourselves to the relationship of food. And the only way that we can do that sometimes, a lot of times, is by going extreme. So we say like, okay, just meat, veggies, single ingredient carbs, boom, that's it. And then they're gonna be like, oh man, this tastes horrible. Oh man, like, my food's so boring and all this kind of shit. You do that for about like 6 weeks straight. What's gonna happen is that your taste buds acclimate to those foods in the first place. We actually would rather go to our extremes and hyper restrictive first, as opposed to being like, okay, well, you can have a drink like once every week, or you can have your drink still, you can still have your wine, you can have no, 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 no. Like that's just kowtowing to like what the client wants as opposed to like what the client needs. A lot of times when we work with people, they need like severe lifestyle therapy, and I find that much better to go to the restrictive part first and then to allow the flexibility afterwards. So then let's just say this, like we have them eating protein, veggies, and single ingredient carbs, 3 meals a day, whatever, starting to lose weight, get to like the 10-week mark, then we're going to say, okay, cool. Let's actually add a glass of wine now. Let's see how that works. And then they add the glass of wine. It's almost like you're gently allowing the flexibility as opposed to allowing it up front. We'd rather backload the flexibility. And a lot of people will disagree with me, and I don't give a fuck. They can disagree with me, but at the same time, after working with clients for like 20 years, thousands of clients, they are actually like when they say that they want to work with you, they are actually the most motivated at that moment of time to make change. So I have this kind of like bad relate, or I have this like kind of like black and not black and white, but almost like a this relationship with like this whole thing like 75 hard, where I'm like 75 hard sucks, but it's also good in a sense, where it's like so it's like a hammer, you're breaking the glass. It's so extreme, and it also can lead to downstream flexibility of actually having like the taste buds that are acclimated to real foods, and then you can actually be easier in terms of the flexibility in regards to that. But yeah, I actually say that it's better to go like really hard in the beginning and then to make it easier, as opposed to going easy in the beginning and then making it harder. But then again, I say this with the fact that everyone is different, but 80% of the time they usually need the hammer.
That's a very good point, man. I actually don't disagree with you on this one. And for business people, they'll understand the sprint, right? It's like we're doing a sprint.
Yeah.
And then from the sprint, because you know what I talked quite a while back about with the Spencer Nadolsky, right? This motivation of results on a front end to where you do make more changes, and then those changes are like, whoa, okay, I see the results. So obviously competence is driving that intrinsic motivation. And then it's like, hey, look, we're gonna add this thing. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And we're gonna add this thing. Okay, cool. And I agree, there's not one size fits all, but I will also agree that like I've seen that with the clients that had the best results and the fastest per se, if you want to do that, right? And again, I've coached many different people, many different ways, but I actually agree with you on this one, even though it's not popular.
Can I add some one more thing in here, which is to say that every single client that comes in is doing something right. And they have one part of their life that is usually right, whether it's the workouts, whether it's the sleep, whatever it is. They're usually coming in not like as like a complete blank slate, but they're usually doing something that is actually on the positive side of being healthy. So a lot of times it's like targeting the worst thing that they're doing wrong, so to speak, and then just like focusing on that. But a lot of times it's not like completely overhauling their lives, because we have a lot of clients that love to work out, just can't like control their diet kind of thing.
Mm. And on that side of things too, like because I'm always intrigued when you talk to different populations. Like for example, we train so many different people here, but if I look at what I'm doing with my offensive line guys right now versus a bunch of school teachers, what is that kind of baseline of training for them? I could actually pocket everything and go like, oh, these folks 2 times a week strength training, 2 times a week conditioning, working amazing, right? This type of person, they like 4 days a week of strength
Yeah.
because they like to be they're a little bit more a me head. What have
Yeah.
you found? Because I'm kind of very with you on the shorter training sessions. And I mean, we've used supersets for forever and ever, but what do you see that like is and I get it, it's like that book that says there's no average. I forgot what it's called, but it's like, averages are sometimes horrible because everybody's individual. But what do
Yeah.
you see like if you were to make a blueprint and say, my busy professionals, they strength train this many days a week, they condition this many days a week. Have you
Yeah.
seen a pattern to where like this is kind of like the baseline?
I would say like when it comes to training, it's like 3 days a week. That is the perfect average. Now, in terms of like the timings of like when these guys get these workouts in, it's usually going to be the mornings, or I would say like in the afternoons, like mid afternoons. If it's at the evening or nighttime, tough fucking luck getting that workout in. In terms of the types of workouts that they do, most of the times they do it is going to be around like a 45-minute session, working on strength, working on mobility. And in terms of like the cardio, we actually don't tell them to do cardio unless they actually love to do cardio. The thing that we do is we try to do something that's called like a shadow habit with them, where the cardio that you would do is not necessarily the cardio that is going to be like consciously done. So an example with this would be like for a lot of our clients, we recommend them to get things like a treadmill desk and or an under the desk treadmill. This fits underneath their desk. And then they can actually do so many things while they are walking, which is like walking meetings, walking videos. They can even listen to podcasts, but they could do that outside as well. And if they get really good at it, they can actually type while they're doing it. I mean, I just did session the other day where I was like batch processing like a bunch of content, and I was doing it while walking on my treadmill. So a lot of times with busy people, if you try to like say like, okay, you gotta like go to the gym, you gotta spend 45 minutes there, then you gotta do this, then you gotta do that. I preferably like to make investments in certain things that are going to make these that are going to make the most use of their time. So usually it's going to be 3 times a week in the gym or in their home gym, and it's going to be walking meetings and getting at least like 10 to 15K steps per day.
Yeah, I think that's key because it's like, what's realistic? I mean, there's so much stuff now online that's just optimal this, optimal that, but
Yeah.
it's like you have to be able to get a person to do it, or none of that matters.
Yeah. Yeah,
Period.
it's the compliance. I mean, you can give them as much as, you can possible, but if they're so overwhelmed and they're not even complying on one thing, then something has to change. But yeah, it depends. I mean, it also depends on the way in which you're doing accountability. It also depends on kind of like the way in which you deliver the program too. It's like a lot of these like moving parts that thankfully like I honed in like when I had like my own gym for like 10 years and then, popped off to online coaching.
Actually, I wanted to dive into this part for you.
Yeah.
Accountability. And there is obviously a more difficult time. At least this is the belief, right? For most. And you've
Yeah.
done both, so you kind of understand it. If somebody comes to the gym, you physically see them, there's
Yeah.
proximity, you
Yeah.
can tell body language, you can tell a lot of different things that you might not be able to know online. What is your approach and viewpoint? And maybe some things that you thought were true, but later found out that weren't when it comes to accountability with online coaching clients to get them the best results.
I actually find that I get better results online than I do in person. And the reason I say that is because with online coaching, there are a number of things that we can do to actually amplify accountability. Now, what I find is that not a lot of people need a personal trainer there to like count their reps. I mean, unless you're like a high level athlete or unless you have like, all the time in the world, then yeah, go get a personal trainer, have them train you, all that kind of stuff. But something that I found is that what people need is like more like consultation and more accountability. So we have this thing that is called the precision accountability matrix, and it goes with 3 pillars. So, like the very first one is they're getting set up with a private coach who's giving them unsolicited follow-ups and feedback. They're always like saying, here, what's your weekly, give me a weekly review. They're always, checking the data because we actually have automatic data coming back from their scales over to our software saying, okay, this person weighed like 5 pounds heavier than they were on the weekend. What the fuck happened? And then we actually have all these kind of like little data points to say, oh shit, like what did you do on the weekend? Blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, like we have a private coach. We also have the group coaching, especially with like all of our high performers. They're in a mastermind with people who have the same problems, but also they all like jive with high performance in business and like all that kind of stuff. And then the last one is going to be using data to inform decision, which is going to be like one of the main pillars. They have a dashboard in front of them. We have a dashboard in front of ourselves. And we have this dashboard to inform us of like what the heck is happening with this person's transformation. We have red, yellow, green. Like we have green, they're going amazing. Yellow, okay, like let's keep an eye on this. And we have red, it's like, okay, this person needs to get on a phone call. We need to like, talk to this person. So with the accountability piece, there's so many ways to go about it. We do text messages, we do video messages, we do like audio messages, and we also have like charts and data that we can show them that's showing them their progress, giving them updates on their progress in relation to their goal. I actually find that it's we can be a lot more robust with online coaching as opposed to like doing the personal trainer thing.
See, I think that like there's huge lessons for everybody in that that's listening to it, right? Because it's like you're constantly giving a mirror back to that person and not in a judgmental way, but just like, hey, like this is where you're at. This
Yeah.
is where you want to go. And then if you need more support, like we get triggered and automatically you get more support. If you're doing, going the right direction, like, hey, shine a light on it. Awesome. Great work. Good job. But you know what that makes me kind of want to, because this does kind of lead into also how you've kind of built that side of the business, because it seems that through content, your expertise and positioning, the people that are like, hey, Dan, I want to work with you, are like they know how you operate, they know what they're going to get, and obviously they also know like the results that you've gotten with people just like them. And has there been a part where that was like really intentional? Like if you go back and go like as you've been building this business, because I wanted to kind of dive into this regardless, but when you were building this business, like, hey, this is who I want to build it for because of who you coached in person,
Yeah.
or did this develop as your online presence kind of started growing and you saw the need and demand for it?
Well, as a business owner, one of the things that we did as business owners was get into these things called masterminds. And when we got into these masterminds, I didn't just like relegate myself to the fitness masterminds. I got into business masterminds and got in. I just wanted to get in groups of people who were thinking the same way, who wanted to build a business, all that kind of stuff. And you've been doing the same thing. The thing that happened was probably like you, around 95% of my friends became entrepreneurs. I surrounded myself with them, and it's almost like we all jive on the same thing, and we jive on other things as well, not just business. The reason I started the business for entrepreneurs and high achievers was because I was surrounded by them, and every single time that I would walk into these masterminds, I'd look around and be like, what the fuck? Why are you guys 30 pounds overweight? And you are literally running, you literally are running like multi-million dollar businesses, and you have the willpower to control something, or not to control something like that, but to build something like that. And you have families. And then for me, it's like I got power in my life when going from a degenerate to like going from wherever I am right now, from exercise, from taking care of my body, from getting myself metabolically healthy. I had the changes inside of my brain, inside my neurotransmitters. I didn't realize at the time, but like as I exercised, as I got healthier, as I started to get more healthy, and as I started to get leaner, my brain started to work a lot better. I was like, these guys are leaving so much gains on the table, cognitive gains, and also like this is the standard that they're setting for themselves. So I got into those masterminds and I'm like, what the hell? Okay, so I want to help my friends. I want to help my friends get healthy. I want to help my friends become the best versions of themselves. And I know that getting healthy and getting metabolically healthy is like the number one meta effect that you can ever have on your life, bar none, even past making $1 million, whatever it is. Like getting healthy is going to make all of those things more of a reality. And even like for my clients, like every single time that we get someone metabolically healthy, a couple of things occur. So it's like number one, they're making more money because they're making better decisions. Their brains are working better. They're less stressed. They have more energy. They're more confident, increase of status, all of this stuff. And then it's just like but they never tie the two together. They're like, oh yeah, I just had like my biggest income month. And I'm just like, how do you think that happened? And then they're like, oh yeah, well, we did this and that. And I'm like, don't you realize that, downstream of like you actually losing 30 pounds was feeling more confident, feeling more energetic. And actually, I just had a client where he got a promotion just recently, big hedge fund guy, all this kind of stuff. But he just got like this promotion to be like one of the head dudes, and this was after dropping his body fat levels, I believe, from like mid 30% to around 22%. And I was just like, do you not realize like what the fuck just happened? Like, do you not realize like this was like it wasn't because of this, but it was a contributor. So I have this thing where I'm just like, if you get yourself healthy, or even if you don't exercise and you just start exercising, this is going to have such an incredible effect on your brain. It's going to have such an incredible effect on your confidence, on your mood, everything like that. It's just like, why would you not do this? So for me, I got into it because first I wanted to help my friends, and two, I wanted to kind of like be able to help billions of people by transforming the people who are serving millions of people. So that's the reason why I got into it, and then now the more that I get into it, the more I'm just like curious about working with like the highest level people, the things that they go through. It's a curiosity to me, and I'm still having fun with it right now.
Yeah, see, and I think that's the way to be able to do this for a long time and keep getting better at it, right? Where you find a point where you're like, I'm curious about this stuff. Like I'm really good at this stuff, but I feel like I don't know a lot, and you just
Yeah.
keep getting deeper and deeper. and building on your expertise. Now, look, we're biased around this,
Yeah.
but at the same, like, how old are you right now?
45.
Oh man, see, I turned 44. I know if anybody's gonna watch this video, you're gonna be like, what is that man using for give me the subs, give me the subs. But
Yeah.
but no, so I mean, it's such a true story. And I always was joking around with my clients that I'd love to track, from the time that you took your health fitness seriously, what happened to your income, whether it was
Mm,
running a business or your I would say growth in your career, like the raise
mm,
that you got, the new positions that you got. And it would probably be a pretty gnarly chart, like, before and afters that would do that.
mm,
But that kind of also leads me to, man, because and I don't know exactly, when this happened. I've followed you for a long time, meaning that your content has been awesome. But like, where there was a snowball effect. And same thing, like we talked a while back, and you were sharing with me stuff on strategic things on LinkedIn and different social platforms, but more of like your mindset around building this online business and maybe showing some of the behind the scenes of the strategic stuff that you
mm.
thought about to build it. And because I mean, it's like it's hard not to see your stuff weekly from a viral standpoint and people sharing it, which is so awesome. But maybe a little bit of like if that was pretty intentional, or some things just happened and then you kind of realized it and went down that rabbit hole.
Well, I like to say that everything is intentional. Now, how it works is not necessarily the way that you plan it to work out. The thing that I look at, and I'm a systems guy. I'm a guy that thinks in systems. I'm a guy that always like tries to find kind of like what the routine and ritual is, and that also comes with like doing a shit ton of reps as well. So I started this whole like social media thing in 2020 when I had my first kid. And the thing that I remember way back then, and I'll set the context for kind of like the rest of this particular conversation, which is like I remember putting out my first post, and then within the first month or so, I grew to like 5,000 followers on X, and then I grew to 10,000, then I grew to 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, all the way up. And as I was growing, I only had this like one thing in my mind, which is like just keep on showing up, keep on pressing publish. That's it. And there's also like other two steps that I have tattooed in my brain, which are do the work. I mean, like if you're going to show up, you might as well do the work. And then always look for ways to improve. And with this formula, I think anyone can win at anything that they do. Literally any game that they choose to play, they will win using this formula. And I want to set it up with that general kind of framework because a lot of times when I see people, let's just say like when I think about business, I think about marketing and I think about sales and then I think about fulfillment. And then the way in which I would kind of like juxtapose everything is the fact that at any point in time, when you, let's just say you increase marketing, it may show that you have a constraint in sales. Anytime that you're selling a shit ton and you're getting a lot of clients, it may actually show a constraint in fulfillment. And then we work through, okay, which one is like the thing that's breaking as a result of like, this thing that's happening. So I look at things kind of like from that angle, especially from when building an online business. So when it comes to like discovery, discovery is all about like, okay, so how many people will actually be able to see my content? And number one to discovery is going to be the content itself. How, and it's also actually, let me see if I can share this thing with you. Do you think you can make a co-host, make me a co-host?
Absolutely.
I can
Hold
share this really cool. I'm not sure how many people watch the videos over here. I'm not
on.
sure.
That'll be a pretty good chunk. Hold on, let me
Okay,
just.
okay. Well, I'll explain this because I did this in about 2021, 2022.
There you go.
And this might give some context, and I'll explain like the context of what I'm about to put if people don't have video or people are listening to this on audio. So this is what I call the flywheel of my company, where every company and all forms of greatness are always built off of routine and flywheels. And for me, when I think about the building a business, it always stems from brand first. You always want to put something out there that is going to be withstanding, hopefully, the test of time, and that's always going to be backed up by creating quality content that people crave. That's the very first one. Then I want to build a tribe and subscriber base. Like one of the biggest problems that I see with a lot of online coaches and a lot of online trainers is the fact that they're building castles on the sand by just relying on Instagram to bring in their clients. When the reality is that Instagram or whatever platform that you're on can easily just say, "Hey, you know what? We don't like you anymore. Your content or your whatever, your profile or whatever, it's gone. And they can take that platform away anytime. So you want to be able to collect email addresses in some way, shape, or form or fashion. I actually prefer to collect them in the form of a newsletter. So we send out a newsletter every Tuesday and Friday. And the thing about this newsletter is like it's a way for our potential clients to get deeper. And also it's a way for people who are following me to get deeper with me on the various topics that I talk about. Then afterwards, we want to have something like a product suite. We want to actually like the Tesla model a lot better than say like trying to sell a course or anything. I want to come out with the most expensive thing first, get a bunch of testimonials, and also figure out the fulfillment side of things. And then this is going to be able to bring in a lot more, let's just say, potential customers. And also, it's going to give me a little bit more leeway in which I can create more products, invest into certain things. And then during that time, the next part is going to be deliver amazing customer service, over deliver to your clients, create raving fans. That's basically under promising and over delivering based on the thing that you said that you're going to do. And then you want to cut the cost of doing business while maintaining high quality. Obviously, when you're scaling, you'll probably see that if you go into your spending, you can see a lot of things that are just redundant at this point and that you don't need anymore. So, in terms of like increasing the amount of money that you make, one of the best ways to do that is to look at your spending and to actually decrease the things that you're spending on an every day, every month basis. Then with the profit that we take and with the profit that we have, we're going to R&D, we're going to find new products to sell, we're going to add to our product suite, and then it all just filters in through the quality content again. So this is the flywheel that I've used to create my online business. And I put a really big emphasis on figuring out the content side of things because that is the driver of every single thing that we do.
And so actually do you have like a framework? By the way, that's a great share. And I feel like man, I saw this basically a hashtag, right? It's like uh basic skills, but if you read it, it's like basic skill. And I
Yeah.
do think that's like it just you got to keep going back to that because that flywheel, right? It's like basics, but just constantly improving and reiterating it. And
Yeah.
people just try to, because it is hard and it's uncomfortable. So you try to find novelty, which is because novelty gives you like the nice little dopamine hit and the
Mhm.
juice. And then you just
Mhm.
keep pinballing from one thing to the next, going, this shit doesn't work. And it's like, no, you're just not staying with it long enough and like really kind of diving into the basics.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear from someone like you that creates incredible content, if you have a framework for your content. And what I mean by that is like scheduling, iteration,
Mhm.
like where you get ideas. Because I talk quite a lot about this because I'm doing a lot of stuff, right? I've got a
Mhm.
podcast, YouTube, social.
Mhm.
But I really wanted to see your approach to that and if you have a structure for it.
For sure, I do. Whenever I think about content, it actually comes downstream from the ideas that I throw up on X. So, like, I think every single person should have some platform that they can throw ideas up and see if it actually sticks. X is that platform for me, and everything comes downstream from that. So, like, if something performs really well on X, whether it be a thread or whether it be a post, it's automatically going up onto Instagram and LinkedIn, and even like YouTube. And it's kind of like we need a way in which to iterate as fast as possible these ideas and see whether or not and test them up to the kind of like the audience. So that's like my first way. That's where the flywheel starts content wise. And then afterwards, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my best stuff and something I've been doing with like my video reels right now. So I have like these thread video reels and I have like my video reels. So my thread reels or like my post reels are gonna just take the best content that I have from like X and unfortunately I have an unfair advantage where I've like pretty much like posted 20,000 times over the past like 5 years. So I mean, I don't know if anyone can actually copy that, but I wouldn't copy it, maybe model, I don't know. But that's like my unfair advantage because I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And my real videos, I'm actually taking from my best performing posts that I do on X as well. I actually use that as the hook. So I remember I was like trying to get into like Reels recently, and I was like, okay, like how do I do these videos? Like yada yada. And then I was like, okay, well, here's like this guy just gave me like 20 different hook ideas. So like let me use these hook ideas. And then I started using these hook ideas and I'm like, ick. I'm like, oh, like
Oh, not me.
feels yeah, that feels horrible. Like that feels like I feel dirty, you know? And I mean, like I do think that you have to model what works, but you also have to like create your own style with that. So I've been taking like the best performing posts that I have on X, and I've been putting them up as like the hooks onto my real videos. And a lot of it's just like like iteration and just like doing what works. But then I also have ratios too, where it's like, okay, well, you can keep on doing what works, but then also that does kind of like make you an automaton, a little bit of like a robot. So one of the things I like to do is like 80/20 it. So like 80% that shit that works, but also 20% let me experiment with things that I think could work. That I'm not sure could, but let's just put it up there anyways. And I found that the 20% has allowed me to find new avenues in which to deliver content that is way different than what everyone else is doing. So yeah, it's like whenever it comes, actually my friend Justin Welsh, he actually calls it the content flywheel, where it's like one piece of content can turn into five different pieces of content if you do it the correct way. So I'll show this flywheel as an example where I can have a thread that does really well on X and like Instagram, and then I can turn that thread into a newsletter, and I can also turn that newsletter into a YouTube script. So it's like all these things will inform each other, and it's not like I'm creating new things all the time. It's like I'm taking the best stuff that works, and then I'm just like kind of like cross-pollinating it across different platforms.
It's so interesting. You said like one of the presentations in my mastermind coming up for our gym owners is exactly that. It's the content flywheel. And a big part of it is what you said earlier. The mistake that people make is not getting people from social platforms into their email
Yeah.
list. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one of the biggest mistakes. It because again, I've had a couple of friends that have big followings on social and got shut down, and it was just like pandemonium panic. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like literally the week after, I was like, you got to build the email list,
Hmm.
and it all feeds itself because I'm sure that you do this too. But in emails, you lead people to other content on different platforms, and it kind of like that's the flywheel. And
Hmm.
I love what you said because it's like very Googlish, right? Like 80/20. It's like you have the free day like Google does. All right, look, this day I experiment 20% of the content. I just experiment with it and see what hits. And I do think there's something about people recognizing whether you're being yourself or not, regardless of the
Yeah.
like overarching strategy. It's like, when people are like, oh, the opinion videos do well right now, or fill in the
Oh,
blank of what does well right now. And
yeah.
so a person will go like, oh shit, well, I gotta go do that. And but
Mm,
but you're not being yourself because it's
mm,
not really what you would do. And I think there's a lot to like learning strategies and different new things, but just really being yourself, because as corny as it sounds, it's like that people gravitate to that when they know, like, oh man, like I kind of know who this guy is.
yeah. I had a friend and she does incredibly well on Instagram. And she sent me this thing where she's like, you should be doing like this type of content. And it was like the take someone else's video, criticize it, talk bad about it, all this kind of stuff. I for me, I like to think maybe about 3 to 5 to even sometimes 10 years down the road, even when I'm creating small pieces of content. And the way in which I think about it is like, number one, I have to ask myself, do I want this type of attention? Do I want the type of attention where I'm criticizing someone and I'm building my audience off of the back of constantly just using stuff to criticize people or to comment on other people's videos and whatever? And if someone likes to do that, by all means, that is what you want to do, and awesome, great. That is not the way in which I like to do things. I like to put ideas out there. And I remember actually I was having a conversation with one of my friends on X, and he was just like debates are like the whole big thing right now, right? And I put out this thing, and he retorted back, and he was like, "We can have a debate. And, I like Dan, blah blah blah, but I'm willing to debate." And I told him, I was like, I don't debate, but I'm willing to have a conversation with you so we can figure out like, what the middle ground of this whole shit is. And for me, it's like whenever I think about like whether or not I don't think that you can completely avoid looking back at content and cringing. I think that's just gonna be like something that happens as you grow. But I do kind of like look at it through the realm of like, will I regret putting this thing out there or even getting attention for this thing? Am I being a cheap whore for attention as a result of trying to do something that could go viral or that could get a lot of people to watch this video? And I'm willing to take the hit on views if that is the case, so I don't have to do that kind of stuff. I'm not looking for ways in which to get like more views, but I'm looking for ways in which to get the right people viewing my stuff, if that makes any sense. So yeah, and yeah, it's like I had thought about like the whole like, oh, I'll sit there and have a green screen and criticize like someone else's video, and it's just like, nah, fuck. Like I gotta stick to what I'm doing. If it's harder that way, then cool. But I gotta stick to like what I feel is like the right thing for me. And I feel like everyone should do the same. Don't just like go after views just because like someone else is doing it and you see something working. You gotta make sure it jives with like your energy and who you are as a person.
See, what's interesting is that, you know, what feels more natural to me is like you said, I was like, if you do the negative stuff, and by the way, if anyone wants to do it, cool. If you think that
Yeah.
that's your brand, that's fine. Is that who you attract on that? I actually like going, shining a light on people that are doing good shit and going like, oh man, look at this good thing that this person is doing. You know, and it's like you do a double whammy because you can say something about the thing you agree with. It's almost like nutritional displacency, right? Like do more of this, remove the bad shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but also I'm like shining a light on somebody else, which is great for building relationships. And I love to, you know, for example, I love to fucking share your stuff and be like, yo, check this out, right? And so now it's doing two good things. More of like, hey, learning the thing that I agree with and shining a light on somebody else that's doing that. And I
Yeah.
think you kind of get, you know, a double or triple whammy in it that's positive versus the opposite, where I might be like, yeah, this went viral, but now I got a beef, number one. Number two, I got a bunch
Yeah.
of people that are arguing in my comments about who's right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
And look, if some people like that way of, because I think the argument is always like, well, no, we have to debate. But I think that's
Mm,
a cover up a lot of time. It's
mm.
like, is that really what you want to do? Or is this just a way to garner attention and, you know, kind of try to stand out through that? So
Yeah. Yeah.
to each one's own on that side of things. But you know
Yeah.
what I'm always intrigued about too is like where you are right now. What is the stuff that like Dan currently is intrigued in and is going down a rabbit hole in? And by the way, it can be the health and fitness side of things. It could be the business side of things. What are you diving into and studying right now? And why? That's the other part too.
What am I diving into and studying right now? Well, number one is because it's so recent, is we have been on a roll with Instagram. And I'm not even trying to figure it out, but I'm like really into kind of like, okay, so like let's put out I'm like manning the ship, so to speak, on this Instagram growth. And I'm just like, okay, cool. I'm being very strategic about the content. I'm like scripting, I'm doing all this kind of stuff. And the more that we just like put stuff out, it's kind of like this train of momentum where we have this thing that's really working for us right now. So I think what a lot of people do is they take their foot off the pedal. And for me, I'm complete opposite. I'm like, let's like see how far
Full
we can
power.
take
Yep.
this. Yeah, let's go. So like the on the content side, it's Instagram. On the business side, it's sales right now because we have kind of like factored that in as like our next constraint that we're working on at this very moment. So it's like it's not enough to just like have a really like good sales script. Like you actually have to like train and you have to motivate and you have to keep them on the ball. You have to make sure they have like these huddles and all. If you want to create like this high level sales team, then that's like one of the things that you got to do. So even like right now, we're within this like 90-day sprint of getting that fixed and getting that up to where we need to be. On the physical side of things, I'm really like into the concept of the idea where it's like as long as it takes. So when my second kid came out, I had gained probably like 20, 23 pounds of like fat and anyone that knows, like, if you're a new parent, that shit has an effect on you. And it's not like you're doing it purposely. You're just lacking sleep. You're more stressed, and you have a new kid, and the new kid automatically makes your hormones go out of whack for just like a little bit. So I gained like 23 pounds of fat, and then I got myself back to where I needed to be, but I did it in a very different way than the way in which I usually approached it. And the way in which I approached it before was, okay, 12 weeks, 90 days, let's go and, let's do it as fast as possible. In this case, I was just like, okay, well, I'm willing to give myself as long as it takes to get down to like 23 pounds. And instead of going like this, like, yeah, I know it's like a complete kind of contradiction to like the thing that we said earlier, but I'm doing this on my own, so I'm just gonna like chill. I'm gonna relax, and I'm just gonna like data track my way down to like wherever I need to be. And then now I'm like on the path to 10% body fat, and the way in which I want to get to 10% body fat, and this is going to be in relation to this course that I'm going to be coming out with later, is I am playing with this theory where a lot of times we like to do these like crazy things, like for some people they're taking like drugs and like all this kind of stuff. And I do think that if you can get yourself down to a lean body within a longer time horizon, especially like I think like the more weight that you have, the faster you can go, but the less weight that you have, the slower you must take yourself. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, if I do take this, getting down to 10% as slow as humanly possible, my theory is that when I get down to 10%, I'm not going to be ravenous. I'm not going to be feeling like I'm in a bodybuilding competition and need to eat my calories back. My theory is that I will actually feel like I have settled into like 10% body fat and to feel like it's a normal part of me based on kind of like the way in which I've got there in the first place. So from a physical side of things, I'm really playing around with this like slow ride towards like 10%. Right now, I think I'm like 15% at this very moment. And then also after I get down to 10%, it's going to go through the thing with me is that I realized from my own body back then was I would always go through these perpetual cycles of like getting lean and then letting myself like maybe bounce back a little bit in a non-intentional way. But in this case, I never really got myself the chance or really put the like emphasis and mindset into building muscle, into really like even though I did my DEXA scan the other day and we are like about 3 pounds up in like lean mass, if I gave myself like a really dedicated block of about like 8 to like I'd say like 8 months to like 12 months of just like really honing in and just like getting my body fat from 10% up to 15%, adding maybe like 10 pounds over there and then cutting back down. I do think that I've never given myself a chance of really like adding about like 10 to 12 pounds of muscle. So that's gonna be probably like my next foray after I get my body down to 10%. And yeah, that's like the stuff that I'm currently kind of like jiving on. And also like from a client perspective, visceral fat, ectopic fat, I'm going deep dives into like these two things right now. And the fact that the ectopic fat is downstream from like the amount of visceral fat, the fact that there's spillover. There's so many different types of fat on the body that people don't realize, and then some are more dangerous than the others. So we want to make sure that we do the right things in order to get rid of like the most dangerous types of fat that they have. So that's from the client side of things.
I would, I got one thought and I got one question for you too. Like one is like I've always been a big fan of this idea that, because when you look at how much it takes to maintain muscle and strength,
Yeah.
it's, studies show it's only about 30 to 40% of the volume, right? Like that essentially you would need to build. And so I'm a big fan of like build it. And then, the payoff is I can spend like 60, 70% less actually
Yeah.
maintaining it, right? So and what you said is like a perfect example of this. I'm like a meathead, so I still train a lot, but I could train less to maintain everything I have. Let's just put it that way, right? But I just enjoy training. But that brings me to this question because you've been through it. I'm hearing this quite a bit where it's like, hey, look, you're going to deal with the hormones. You can deal like obviously with less sleep, and I'm
Mhm.
on this mission to, I'm going to still stay kind of within the realm of the fit that I am, and it's honestly become a little bit of a kind of challenge and researching it and figuring it out. But for dads that are newer dads, what's some advice? Now you've had two kids, you've gone through this a number of times. What are some insights that you're like, hey, you know what? These things I'm sure of, and I think would help you.
Well, let's ask the question, which is like, how involved is your wife going to be in the child rearing process? Is she still going to be working after she's, whatever, but or like what's the context of this?
Yeah, I mean, what's been great is that she'll probably be off for about 7 months,
Okay.
maybe more so in that time frame,
Okay.
which is great. I'm very grateful and blessed that we're in that situation.
Yeah.
And I built a home gym, so
Yeah. Yeah.
so so that will be a little bit helpful. Maybe that gives you a little bit more context.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't necessarily there is going to be a big shock to the system for the first kid, but I don't think it's going to be as shocking as because you actually do have kind of like the help and you're not gonna like shove the kid into daycare and like have to deal with like all that kind of stuff. So it's like I mean like from a perspective is like yes, you're gonna lack sleep. I would probably say to take 25 to like 30 grams of creatine on a daily basis just to like fight the sleep deprivation and to stay mentally sharp. The other thing that I would say is now it becomes very important that you get strategic about where you place your workouts. Before, I could just like work out whenever I wanted, and I had like open schedule. Okay, fine, I'm gonna work out at 2. Like when you have a kid, nah, it ain't like that anymore. B is like you gotta like put the workout in your schedule now. It's like you do the things that you actually tell clients to do, but now you have to do them, right? One of the things that also like really helped out, and I'm pretty sure you're doing this already. If you're not, it'll help. But it's just like it's like getting like meal prep, it automatically delivered to your home at the macros that you need. If you have a chef, even better. But like getting actually like I actually say it's like I find it so weird how people will constantly order Uber Eats and DoorDash and they will never get meal prep for themselves because they think it's too expensive. When the reality is like it's way more expensive to
But
get Uber. It's just like,
my girls, she's had cravings for like just it's like burger fries stuff,
yeah,
and I looked at the bill the other day for a burger, fries, and a drink, it was like 30. Once you add all the
yeah.
tax, like 36, $38. I'm like, yo, do you know what you can get fresh caught salmon, like all the good stuff. It's actually dramatically more expensive than getting meal delivery or meal plan. I mean, so
People look.
it's gotten kind of
Sorry,
wild.
people look at me like I'm like Daddy Warbucks or something like that when I tell them to get meal prep. Especially just like say like someone who's not necessarily like the average person that works with me and whatever. And then I just ask them, is like, how often do you order Uber Eats or DoorDash? You're like, probably like 3 to 5 times a week. And I'm just like, do you not realize you could save $100, if not more than that, by just getting regular, and you'd probably be a lot healthier by just getting regular meal prep bought from someone else that delivers it straight to you. It just boggles my mind. But that's like kind of like this disconnect that I see with a lot of people. So like meal prep is going to be one of them. Sleep is going to be affected. I would probably get like, some form of like sleep tracking just to, just to kind of get it for shits and giggles to see like, okay, so this is what my sleep was like before kid. This is what my sleep was like after kid. And then you're just gonna have to go through what I call like the struggle bus period. I mean, the struggle bus period is like figuring things out for the first like 6 months to a year. And you can do as much as you can to like, stave off the fat pounds or anything like that. But at the same time, like, don't stress yourself out either. Like, enjoy the kid, enjoy the new life, enjoy being a dad, enjoy all the challenges that come along with it. And you'll always get the fitness and everything like that back because I know who you are. It's like you automatically set a standard. You're gonna get back to it. But yeah, don't stress yourself out when the kid comes out. I gotta get my workouts in. I gotta eat this. I gotta eat that. It's like no, just like let yourself go into the whole process of having a baby, have your safeguards and your guardrails and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just enjoy it.
Wisdom from the man that's done it, man. Brother, I
Twice.
appreciate you,
Yeah,
man.
it's the second kid that fucks things up. I'm telling you, it's the second kid. It's
This,
the
hey, this
second
I
one.
think you might be. It's funny because we were just talking about that. And, she's in the stage of
Uh,
like,
yeah.
don't talk to me about it right now.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, ideally, that's what we would kind of be.
yeah.
We'll have that conversation when it comes. But
We shall. We
uh,
shall.
man, this has been awesome, dude. Like, well, actually, where can people find out more about you? It's honestly,
Yeah.
there's a lot of platforms. I think people should follow you on every platform, but kind of where's the main hub and the main places they should check out?
Just follow me on Instagram. You can go to Dan Founder. That's my profile name. It's probably going to change a lot very soon, but yeah, you can go Dan Founder or just search Dan Go on Google and go to any one of those places. You can join my newsletter on my website. That's where I go like deep dive into a lot of the stuff that we do with our clients. So check that out. And yeah, man, I appreciate us just being able to see each other and just being able to jive with each other again. It's been too long.
I agree, brother. This has been
Yeah.
phenomenal. Make sure, hey, if you got a lot from this episode, make sure you share it. That's how the show grows. That's how a lot of people get value. And I'm sure that you'll find a lot of nuggets of wisdom in this one. So appreciate you for listening and see you next time.
All right, brother.